So to kick off with, it's fabulous to have you both joining us for this conversation, to continue the conversation about mental health and mental well-being, especially today we're talking about it in the workplace, and a bit more specifically with you, Lorraine, about your experience in construction as well. So just to kick off with, can I just ask you guys to, for those that are listening, to introduce yourselves, and then I'll do the same and then we'll start. Alastair, do you want to go first?
I normally say ladies first, so I want to be a good boy, Paula, and say ladies first for Lorraine, if that's okay.
Beautifully polite of you. Crack on, Lorraine.
Thank you very much, Alastair.
You're welcome.
My name's Lorraine. I work for HD Construction and I am a Community Liaison Officer. My job role consists of, when we build any construction site, I make sure all the neighbours are happy with what's going on. So reaching out to the community, going into schools, giving talks with schools about safety on sites, and making sure that everybody knows what's going on and keeps them updated.
Fabulous. And Alastair.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Lorraine. My name is Alastair. I work for an organisation by the name of Lambeth and Southwark Mind. I work in a capacity as a chief executive, and we are a mental health provider. We're part of a federation, which means that we're part of a national group of 114 minds, and we're a local mind of that. So all throughout the UK, you will find a mind. Lambeth and Southwark, I would say we are a unique mind because we offer a free service. That's counselling and psychotherapy to all residents for free. So that's what we really pride ourselves on. It's a free service. Of course, we cannot provide counselling for everyone, but it's through organisations like HD Construction that kindly donated to us. We're able to extend that service to so many other people. So we're very grateful for HD Construction to be here today. And obviously what they did for us last year was very, very important. But we're a mental health provider, and we provide a service to all, and it's all ages as well.
Fabulous. I didn't even realise that actually, that service was completely free. That's amazing. And so on to me. So I'm Paula Mitchell. I'm a co-founder of a business called the Condor Collective, and we're a business with the purpose of helping companies create happier employment. So it's a very big and bold statement, and we mostly deliver that through looking at their employee experience, looking at culture and engagement, and of course a huge part of any employee's experience is all about their well-being, physical, but of course in this particular topic we're talking about their mental health well-being. And we are talking to employees all day every day because we tend to run a survey process and we interview lots of people, and it's really important that in some of those conversations we acknowledge that the mental health is hopefully becoming more and more normalized to talk about, and I hope very much for the future that we continue doing what we're doing, that we start to see that that continue to develop positively. What I thought we would start with is it's always good to get a bit of an idea as to sort of setting the scene. And Alastair, if I can come to you first and just ask, where do you think we are as a society in general in terms of our ability to normalise that conversation about mental health?
Paul, it's a very good question. I'm happy to say that the word mental health today the stigma is being removed slowly. I say slowly because I think it should be a lot quicker, but I think the obvious pandemic has obviously brought that to the top, where I think we're saying 1 in 4, I think it's 2 in 4 people are affected by mental health. So I believe that is normalizing the conversation, but I do believe that it's something that a lot of people don't talk about very comfortably, but I believe it's something that is becoming a normal part of life because we've come out a very difficult period in the pandemic. That has been shown in the demand of the services that we offer, that we've just not able to offer enough for the demand that's been required.
Construction stands out, as some other industries do as well, for the fact that it is it's a particularly masculine industry, and we know that statistically men find this kind of subject matter often a lot more difficult to talk about than women do. I'm just intrigued to hear your thoughts as to, or any shift that you've seen, first of all, Lorraine, in a hyper masculine industry. How have we seen that evolve?
So mental health has become quite brought to the forefront of people's minds now as well. So it isn't just something that's behooed and swept under the carpet. You go into the toilets in work and there are mental health posters in the toilets, contact numbers, things like that. So it's sort of simmering in the background for people to know that if needed, there is helplines and things like that around.
And as you mentioned before, I mean, and I agree wholeheartedly that it's any wholesale societal cultural change is often over decades than it is over years. How do you think we can help further shift this culture, particularly in hyper masculine environments or industries?
Yeah, I totally agree with Lorraine. I think it's just being authentic and open and having that conversation, and that means we have to make ourselves vulnerable. So if we're saying, how are you doing, as effectively Lorraine put it, let's mean it, and let's not wait for I'm okay and rush off. Are you really okay? Because that's what maybe somebody really wants you to really say to them, and wait for the answer. Or are you really okay? So we can actually check in and find out that you are okay or you're not okay. Because sometimes we don't even wait for the person to finish the response, and we're moving on to somebody else. So are we really that concerned about that individual? Is it, hi, you okay? Okay, bye. And that's not enough. So I think it's being authentic, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, because that means you're being open, and that allows you to share more with that individual that actually I'm not okay. And because you've paused to wait for my response, I'm going to share a bit more.
One of the things that strikes me when you're talking there is just thinking about language. So one of the things that we talk to lots of companies about is the intricacy of how important sometimes language can be. And I was just thinking about it when you were saying there that I in a conversation with maybe a millennial generation person, it's a very big generalization, but I feel like there would be a lot more comfort in them saying, I need to take a mental health day today or something. Okay. Whereas perhaps a baby boomer or a Generation X, etc. I wonder if there's a little bit of something in the language that you use, whether that helps make it more authentic and therefore more usable for people. So I'm just sort of throwing that out there to say, if it's rather hang on, I need a stress out, or I need a timeout, or whatever, I just wonder if companies can maybe have a little think about, and industry-wide, whether there is a better way of communicating around this, or is there a kind of, is it about saying, I've got to press my timeout button or something? And if you just mention those words, I don't know, is that me? Is there anything in that, do you guys think?
For the older, I don't want to say you both are a lot younger than I am, but I think maybe for those generations, the younger and the older and the in-betweens, I believe it's important that we create a space. So for example, we're doing this on a Zoom, and what we've practiced is having regular Zoom meetings where we do not talk shop, Lorraine and Paula. We're not going to talk shop at all. We're going to talk about the tea we're drinking, what's happening today, and that then may lead to a conversation. Actually, I'm not feeling so well because I felt quite stressed out. But if you haven't got those spaces where it's very difficult for maybe an older age group or a younger age group to express themselves in how they're really feeling, and what we've had to do, because we're not together in an office a lot of the time, we're on Zoom, is create those tea and coffee chats on a Zoom for 30 minutes. It's not shop, it's just about today. And that helps to facilitate a conversation about how we're feeling.
And Alastair, do you, out of interest, have any particular advice for people about protecting their mental well-being around this subject of work-life balance?
Yeah, there always has to be structure, and most importantly, boundaries. Because if you haven't got a structure and no boundaries, you're going to work extra long hours. and you're not going to be taking care of yourself, and before you know it, you're going to be exhausted and maybe burn out, which is a worst case scenario. So we always encourage having a structure, boundaries in a workplace. That could be part of your performance management, your appraisals, your one-to-ones, and as a supervisor, manager, director, you're checking in with that individual to ensure that that structure and boundaries are being met. And if it's not, you're facilitating a conversation to ensure how they can achieve that.
To me, I feel that staff are like plants. They're a byproduct of the environment they're in. So you feed them and water them and tender to them. It makes such a difference. It makes such a difference to the environment. 40 hours a week most members of staff are on site for. If you're not happy, that is a long time to be unhappy for. It's a really long time. So let's make that environment as best as we possibly can for all of our staff to be there, because like I say, everybody has to be happy within their work, and it has a knock-on effect. If Johnny, for instance, is having a really bad day and stressed out, he can have a knock-on effect with the other 10 guys he's working with that day as well.
Absolutely.
So it's not just the one person system that you need to be looking at. It's the whole sort of environment, I believe, that is really important.
And I like what you said there, Lorraine, about it. It could even be a lunch break. Absolutely. So I think in our environment, we are a lot more flexible, but I also think that it's important that we model good practices. So there have been occasions where I have at a meeting, I've had my sports jacket on or top on and I've got to finish on time because I'm going to the gym in my lunch break. So people see the top on and say, right, so he means business. So I'm encouraging you, if you're not a runner, like I love to run, go and walk or do something, just listen to, or do something in your break to just give yourself that time for yourself, which we all need. So I'm trying to say model good practices, let it become a culture, which is a positive one.
Is there any other advice that you could offer to business leaders as to how they can best implement a fresher culture and lead by example?
Yeah, what's something that's really taken off in the last few years, Paula and Lorraine, is something called mental health first aid at work. And this is a training that you would do typically over 2 days. It's offered to all members of staff. But what we're seeing, the trend has been that we're finding a lot more senior managers, leaders, directors are engaging with this type of training, so that they are becoming the trainer of trainers. So they've got the skill set, they know the signs, what to look out for, because they've had a 2 days or 1 day training, but they're then able to download or share that training with their, I don't know, senior management or even supervisors, to get them to be aware of their stuff, what they should be looking out for. And what you find is there's more of a empathy towards someone not doing so well, because I've been to organizations where they've feared talking to their line manager about not feeling great, feeling depressed or anxious. But having this type of training and sharing, it allows people that space to really be a bit more vulnerable and to share. So I'm obviously, it must sound like I'm plugging a program, but mental health first aid at work, I've personally seen this is something that is growing. It's given the managers, staff, the tools to see the signs and the steps to help people to be aware of each other and themselves, of how to cope with challenges around mental health and well-being, and putting in place good practices.
There's something for me, again, maybe in how we develop this further forward with leaders and companies, to say, who are the individuals best placed for this kind of conversation? So while it being open to all and again, lots of people being aware and spotting signs is fabulous, I wonder, I don't know if companies already do this. Are there individuals that they say, this is our mental health support group? So if you ever have anything in particular you would like to talk through with them, here's your first port of call. It's Lorraine who's over here, etc. To your knowledge, does that exist? Are people sort of selected based on their predisposed skills for this sort of conversation?
The more people that understand mental health, I feel is always going to benefit, whether they're approachable or not. And I believe mental health first aid courses open people's eyes to situations and how people are sometimes feeling